On today's episode of Gathering the Kings.
If you don't know how to set up the 360-degree of your organization, that means you will always struggle.
Yeah.
And that means you will look for doing another business that could give you better return.
Right.
How about like fixing your first business and making sure that you're adhering it?
You are listening to Gathering the Kings with Chaz Wolfe, featuring fellow 7, 8, and even 9-figure business owners who have real battle scars from business and life, but have prevailed as the king that they are designed to be. We welcome high-performing entrepreneurs to the stage in order to reveal the real of the real on what it takes to build a successful business today. We dissect the good and bad decisions they've made along the way that give a true and accurate picture of the journey of success and how you too can get there. Through this dialogue, you will learn the value of growing your network and surrounding yourself with power players and kings like today's guest. Grab your pen and notebook because we're about to dive in. What's up, everybody? I'm Chaz Wolfe, Gathering the Kings podcast. Today, I've got my good buddy. I'm going to try to make sure that I say this correct, buddy. Hamid Mahmood, my brother. Welcome to the stage. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. And excited to see you as well.
Yeah, I had to clear my throat and everything for that one, but hopefully I did it justice. I'm glad that you're here. We're gonna get technical a little bit here on today's show. You're a working genius, for lack of better terms, to all my listeners here. But tell us what kind of business that you have, Hamid.
Actually, I'm a serial entrepreneur. So my background is more into the digital industry, and I basically run 3 agencies. I've got a couple of digital platforms. So one of the agency which I run is called Software Pro. The second agency which I run is called Ecom Development NYC. The third agency which I run is called HTML Pro. And there is a reason I didn't have one agency and I have 3 agencies, which I can explain later in the podcast conversation. And then I have a digital platform, which is close similar to, if you heard about SEMrush or Ahref, and that's called ettvi.com, ettvi.com. It's a digital marketing tool with almost like 60 plus tools inside that can be used free of cost by any digital marketer in the world. The 5th venture which I have and which is done for the community all over the globe is called e-commerce pro, and the website is called the ecompro.com. And over there, the way we run the agencies, the way we make others successful online, we put everything in the blueprint, and then it's actually in the subscription form. So anybody can go there, they can pay like $12 and they start to learn. Let's say if you want to be a Facebook expert or a Google Ads expert or a developer, you can actually go there and become an expert. So that's the 5th platform we have. And we actually go in many places in the world and many cities, especially those areas where there is less education and skills, and try to promote this venture.
Yeah, I love it. Obviously, you're an international entrepreneur and you've got a lot of interest in several platforms. And so I'm excited to kind of dive into this. Before we get into your story, I would love to know, you're serial entrepreneur from one to another. We're kind of crazy. Let's just be honest. Our attention isn't captured by just one business. We have to do multiple things. But I want to know what makes you tick. Is it achieving more? Is it an amount of money? Are you trying to provide for your family? Like, what's the bigger picture for you?
Definitely not providing the family. So I think that's some people say the leaders they're born as leaders, and I actually get it. I'm MBA. My specification was done in leadership as well and management. So I studied the whole certification and the leadership. I feel that's some people have fire.
Yeah.
And that fire doesn't let you sit down. Trust me, if you sit down, you're going to get perished.
Yeah,
So,
it consumes you.
So it's actually the fire. And if you use that fire to any wrongful ways, it's not good for the society. Yeah. So you use that fire in a productive ways, you actually get the benefits in return. But you have to make sure that you have to be, yes, super multitasking, number 1. Number 2, you have to be organized, yet at the same time, make sure that your stakeholders are not compromised with a lot of ventures. And the similar way, because you'll read a lot of books that says, focus on one venture. And actually, I somewhat agree on that too, but may not fit with every person in the world, just like maybe you're the serial entrepreneur and I'm the serial entrepreneur as well, because we want to do a lot. So if I have 5 different ventures, I have the capacity to handle five, and I have the capacity to handle five in a way that you actually read in the books.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I love that discernment actually that you really have. I've come to know that myself over the years, that there is value in focus, right? There's value in being able to dial in and do things in an organized fashion and work methodically through things. And to your point, it's a capacity issue that we're discussing here. Some people have the capacity for 1, 2, 3, 10, whatever it is. Obviously, it would be a challenge for us to say Elon Musk can only do one thing, right? Like, he's the point case example of how no, that's not the case at all. However, I love what you said. Inside of each venture, you still have to be able to operate it like the book says, in a dialed in, focused, methodical, progressive way. And so I love what you said about fire. How did you come to know this? Or when was your first realization of, oh, geez, I have a fire inside of me that's maybe a little bit different?
I'm actually in the mid-30s, and I got to know about that, I think maximum couple of years ago, not before that.
Wow.
Before that, it was just working and working. Maybe I thought that I'm a hardworking guy.
Sure.
But now I feel that there is a fire inside. And the reason being is that I just want to keep working. I just want to keep moving. Even if there is no work, I still want to work.
Yeah.
And then I saw a lot of people taking flights and sleeping. I cannot sleep in the flights. If I'm in the flight, I literally completed the whole book while taking a 12 hours flight, just because I cannot be idle. So that actually means that when you're sitting idle, you feel that, no, I think you're wasting your time. Just do something productive. And also see the opportunity. There is a huge opportunity for being productive. Well, if you're done with yourself, then there is a community to serve for.
That's right.
And if you have the power and energy to do more than yourself, I think that's a fire inside.
I love it. I love it. It's really the king mindset that we talk about inside of Gathering the Kings, inside the mastermind, here on the podcast several times. It's this transition from maybe selfish ambition to what else? Well, once I've gotten mine, once I've made my millions or whatever, maybe you don't make millions. The reality of it is, once you have enough, what else? You just stop? No, there's a community, there's your family, there's your team's family, your church, your community, all these other things. All right, let's talk about the story. I want to know your story. I want to know, how did you first become an entrepreneur? What was the very beginnings of you and becoming a business owner?
I will actually go a little back than becoming an entrepreneur. When I was 5 years old, there was a separation that happened between my mother and father.
Wow.
And since I actually never had a chance to live with a dad in my conscious. So
Sure.
It was a hard time, never being hard follow-ups. So a free guy who can do everything, can go in the right direction, can go in the wrong direction. But I felt that I actually took some really good steps, but I used to face a lot of people. I used to face any kind of people in the society, good people, bad people, face them and able to come over it. Sometimes I got screwed up. Sometimes I'll just go across and get successful. So a bit of the life, which was not normal. So that's one of the things that could actually fire you up as well, because you haven't been raised up in a normal circumstances.
That's right. That's right.
And then sometimes not having even a lot of money for completing your education as well. And then because of that, at 17 years of age or 18 years of age, you have to start doing the job to earn money, and then you have to pay for the university fee as well at the same time. So when I was in the university, I was doing a full 9 hours job. And then at the 9 hours job, whenever I used to have time, I used to read my notes and assignments, because I have to, give assignment the next day.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I used to do a couple of hours of community work as well, going outside, telling people, hey, do the right thing, do not do the bad thing. So I had that inside me as well.
Yeah. You've always had it. It's just a matter of you dividing up your time back then just looked a little different.
Exactly. So from 18 years of age till 26 years of age, 80 years, I did employment in multiple organizations. That includes some Fortune 500 companies as well. Started with the call center jobs, taking calls, doing sales, customer service. From that, I had a background of marketing, MBA marketing in leadership, doing call center, customer service. I actually ended up with good communication skills over there. I felt at that time. And then a good day, someone called me up and he said, hey, Hamid, there is a IT company, you want to do a job? I said, what is IT company? Back in 2009, I'm talking about. They said, okay, just go over there and get the interview. I went there. That company was actually an HTML-based organization.
Okay.
So they hired me up for their sales. I actually did the sale right on my first call.
Wow.
And then gave them the project and they hired me up. They actually kept me up for a couple of years. And I used to give them like 15 to 16 new projects every month. And they actually loved me too. But then in 2011, I was called up by another big corporate. And at that time, 9 to 6, I was working in that corporate. I was leading a team of about 100 employees and doing the quality assurance and training at that time. And at that time, I had experience of almost 5 years. Then 6 to 10, I'll go to another IT company for a service-based organization IT company, just like what I'm doing right now for my business.
Yeah.
And then from 10 to 1, I used to work in a digital SaaS. So I was doing 3 jobs at that time. But in 2030, I thought it's quite enough now. And then I felt after 80 years that, okay, now my mentality with my bosses is actually conflicting. And I had a few values which I thought that should be in a business or in an entrepreneur, and that started using to conflict with the person I was working. And at that time, I felt, now, Hamid, I think you understand, you should take a step ahead and start doing your own venture.
Yeah, I love that. I think that even though it's different than my story, different than some of the people listening here today, generally though is the same story. It's, man, I'm gonna put my effort into something, and you kept going and going, and then you realize eventually, man, if I put this effort into my own thing, this could be really incredible. You don't really know what that looks like. It didn't sound like you did at that time, but who knew, less than 10 years later, you'd be five platforms building out something in your mid 30s. It'd be pretty incredible. I want to know, like you talked about from your childhood a little bit, from the perspective of not having certain things, was there this entrepreneurial like theme, even though you were working, did you always maybe know that you wanted to do your own thing? Or was it something that like eventually you came to, okay, I have to now go do my own thing. I can see this better on my own.
I evolved. Nobody taught me how to go step by step.
Right.
When I started out my entrepreneurship, the company was called HTML Pro. It was just an HTML company. After 3 years, I got to know it's not what people looking for, it's actually the website. And then after a couple more years, I got to know it's not actually the website that people look for, it's actually the marketing and
Leads.
it's actually the growth of the company.
Right.
After 5 years, I understood that, Hamid, people are actually looking to win the business.
That's right.
And HTML, the website, the software is a byproduct.
They're just tools.
Exactly. So then that's why I had the companies. One is Ecom Development that does the e-commerce marketing as well.
Sure. Yep.
That means that we actually help people grow successfully if they don't know how to be successful online. And we know that when we help with that, we end up getting the development work in that too. Yep. So yeah, exactly. Actually evolved. And that's one of the reasons I mentor now as well, that all the 10 years at which I took and I learned with the time, I can tell people that they don't have to go through, all the hard path, and they can take my suggestions.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. All right. I want to know, early on, when you first made that move to become an entrepreneur on your own, do your thing, that first couple of years, let's go back to those years. I want you to tell me about a good decision that you made inside the business that you can share here today that would be applicable. The listeners can take a note, take it away, and apply it to their business.
Absolutely. I'm actually writing my own book as well. And that's going to be my 6th venture.
Hey, yo.
And so just to let you know, guys, that my agencies, they're in multi-7-figure in dollars right now.
Yep.
So we have good revenues that's coming up. Right from the day one, since I had a corporate experience, the one thing which I did, which I still see. So I put a post onto the LinkedIn, who is following the EOS model, which is Entrepreneur Operating System. And apart from 1 or 2 people, they didn't even know what the EOS model is. And if you don't know the EOS model, or if you don't know how to set up the hierarchies, if you don't know how to set up the 360-degree of your organization, so that means you will always struggle. Yeah. And that means you will look for doing another business that could give you better return. So fixing your first business and making sure that you're adhering it. So the one thing which I did was following the books, following how the big corporates are working. That includes process. So I actually wrote the processes with my own hands, writing everything that a person should do, assigned different roles, making sure that there is a CEO, there is an integrator, and then there is different department leads who are reporting to integrator, and CEO is a visionary. And then the people who are reporting to each other, making sure that every person has a number or a KPI to achieve. And then they have a reporting mechanism. And then they have a monthly report mechanism as well. apart from doing just delivering the projects, and then making sure then there is a quality assurance department as well to make sure that everybody is working well. So right from the day one, I wanted to have an organization, not just a project-based, delivery-based organization.
Yeah, I love that. I think that there's a lot of times, and it's not the first time it's been mentioned here on the show, but what you said is that we heard it, we see how it works in big corporations, but we just don't do it because it's work. Let's just be honest. Like you said, you had to write it out for yourself, make sure that each job description is in place, make sure that the hierarchy is established. All these things seem like really basic, but it really gives you a mindset inside the organization that allow, even if you don't have those people in place yet. Would you agree with this? That you're writing this thing out as if you see the business in a certain way, and then you're starting to fill these seats as it goes. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. So first of all, I always say, people call me a pro because every of my venture is called a pro. And I tell them, hey, if you want to be successful in your venture, be a pro in your business.
Yeah.
And if you're a pro in your business, means you're expert in your business. That means you can actually write down what are the good things, what are the bad things. And then once you have noted down everything, that's the time that you can actually sub-assign your roles to others.
Yep.
So even if you're smaller, like a small entrepreneur, still you should be doing the initial jobs yourself. So the first couple of years, do not call yourself a CEO. Just call yourself some role.
Yeah.
Who is making sure that the organization is in place, and he's writing a lot of documents. So one of the venture which I did, which is Ecom Development NYC, we reached the first 7-figure in an year and a half exactly.
Wow.
And the whole 1 year, I didn't waste any time. I was just writing the documents and assigning to teams and training the teams. So the first couple of years are for the entrepreneurs to do as much work as possible to make it an organization.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if you don't have that first year or 2, 3, then really there's no foundation. And all the things that you're talking about, 7 or even multiple 7s, 8, 9 figures, that doesn't happen out of disorganization or the not being built on
Never
something
would.
secure. Yeah, exactly. So it just never is going to get there, because even if you had the ability to market and bring in new customers, all those people would just fall through the gaps because you don't have the systems in place to be able to take care of them on the back end. So what would you say, we're going to flip the coin here, what would you say was a bad choice that you made as you're building up these first couple of businesses?
I think not choosing the right roles, pushing the right roles.
Okay.
Sometimes you work with people and you push them to do certain work until I read a book, and that's called Traction.
Yep.
Get a grip on your business. So if that's for the audience as well, you must read that book. You must read that book, Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business. So until I read that book, that always choose the right people. And if you think that a certain job is not being done correctly, check the person. And if you have a doubt after making sure that their roles or the numbers are not met, or they have the attitude issues, or the person is creating the negativity, then do not be afraid of getting apart and put the right person. So I would say that since I was a very small entrepreneur at that time, and then I was a bit in a learning curve, so I made the wrong decisions by choosing the wrong people.
Sure. Yeah. And you're 100% right. If you don't know, even going back to your good decision, if you don't have the things in place, because obviously it's not like you just all of a sudden everything's in place. You said it took you 18 months to really build the foundation. So through that process, there were times where you had people, in this case, you're saying the wrong people, before you had certain systems. And eventually at some point it was a mess. And you were like, so you had to fix some systems and you had to fix some people. What would you say was the indicator for you? Or maybe someone listening today, they're not at that $1 million mark yet. What's an indicator for them to know that maybe they got the wrong person on the bus, or maybe that wrong person just in the wrong seat on the bus?
Exactly. So again, if you get back to the book, it will tell you that always assign a number to every person. So let's say you've hired a project manager, give him a number. Your customer quality reviews index should be 90%, or they should be 95%.
Right.
The delivery SLA should be 95%, right? The feedback from a customers about your behavior should be 98%, right? So take out those numbers and then see where the gap is. If they are meeting that number, so that means you have the right person. And if those numbers are not being met, then you don't have to actually listen from X, Y, Z places. Okay, this person is not doing the right job. Hey, I think this person is wrong for this role. You don't have to put the ears on that. You should just focus on the numbers. And that's what I learned in the later stage of being an entrepreneur. Once you get the traction and traction you get in the weekly or the bi-weekly reporting meetings, where you sit and then you ask the leaders to give you a report. And that number will tell you, okay, he's the right person, he's the wrong person.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems so simple when you put it into a sentence like that of just, okay, now the leader basically reports the number to me and I make a decision. What would you say the first step, obviously going to the book, reading it, dissecting, for the person listening right now, outside of reading the book, what would you say is their first step? Do they need to look at their current team? Do they need to create those job descriptions first and then look at their team? What would you say? Because maybe they've never heard of this before and they're like, okay, this sounds good. I need to get a hold of my business, a hold of my people. What would you recommend their first step be?
A friend from IT company, he's actually in about $1 million company with almost 50 employees.
Okay.
And he booked me out for a coffee. He said, hey, Hamid, I want to meet you. Till that, I didn't know about that.
Okay.
I went to meet him, had a coffee. He said, I'm facing one problem. If you can help me. I said, okay, go ahead. He said, Hamid, whatever I tell my employees, they don't follow it.
Huh.
And due to that reason, I end up doing things myself.
Exactly.
And this sentence, I've heard that hundreds of times. Now it could be hundreds of times now.
Oh,
the same sentence, the entrepreneur will say that I will do this job myself because he's not able to do what I want. The key is, you said that. Do you just say it? Or do you put it on a paper, give it to him, and keep a document in front of that person and then say, hey, whatever you need help with, you see the document, and I'm expecting the work to be done exactly as per this document. And if you don't do that, your KPI will be marked. And if you continuously do that, you'll be fired.
Yeah.
So the first step is write the document. Yes.
Yeah. I love how easy it really is, but systemized how you're making it. Isn't that moment like what I knew you were going to answer it like that, right? And so what I'm pressing on in the listener right now is, and look, I've been there, you've been there, we've all been there, where they're really fast, like trying to solve this problem, help with this client, put out this fire, like just all over the place, and they're barely getting anything done. And they're thinking, you want me to take time that I don't have and write a document? Really? And my encouragement is yes, just like what Ahmed was just saying, it really comes down to communication, because if you don't learn how to just write it out and then write it out in a form that can be understood, maybe there's a little bit of training. Like you said, basically you say, hey, what support do you need? Because if you can genuinely give this thing away, this task or this division even, then it's gone forever. And that's the weight that most entrepreneurs don't realize. They're so stuck in the daily grind that they won't stop for the little pit to change out their tires or change the oil, which is write the document. They just keep going and going and going and going, saying, I'll just do it myself. They can't do it right. I can't find anybody good. They're too slow, too lazy, whatever. I'll just do it myself. And eventually what that it keeps them from growing, eventually leads to burnout. They eventually close the doors. Like, you want to add anything to this?
One more thing, empowering without training is a curse. So a lot of
here's
people
the keys to the car you don't know how to drive.
Here we go. Here we go. So I saw a lot of entrepreneurs coming to me. They said, hey, I tried to give him the job, but he failed. So now I do it myself. I asked, did you train him for it?
Yeah.
Train? No, I told him. Telling him is not training the persons. You know what I did? I had a junior team for one of the venture which I had. And after spending a month or two, I realized these guys are really junior. And what I did, I said, okay, you have 8 hours of shift. You will do just 7 hours of shift doing working. 1 hour. For the next 2 to 3 months, I will give you training every single day.
Yeah.
I made about 32 modules explaining how the websites work, explaining how the softwares will work, explaining how the marketing works, explaining how the customer service works, explaining how every technical matter will work. I actually put it on paper and I started training them. And after every training, I will give them a document and I'll ask them to complete that in-house. And tomorrow before the next training, I'll ask them. So one thing you asked me to add is always train your people. And just remember that when you train them, it's not a loss. And you know what? I was actually reading a comment yesterday from one of my employees, and he said, "Hey, Hamid, so I saw my customer website and he had these 15 problems on his website." I
Yeah.
said, "What the fuck? Are you seriously a pro now? When you were hired, you were just a data entry guy. And now you're
Right.
saying that the customer is having these 15 problems and
Right.
this he's not able to make sales." And I was actually glad at myself that glad I actually empowered them and actually trained them so I can see
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. You're right. Most people, if empowered and trained, actually supported, can do a whole lot more than they actually believe in themselves a lot. A lot of times us as entrepreneurs believe in them more than they believe in themselves. But what a cool reward that you got to be able to see him develop in fast motion to be able to help clients in that way. And what a reward, actually. Now we're talking a little selfish, right? Yeah, we raise people up. It helps our business. That's all fine. But like selfishly, doesn't it feel good when you know you've changed someone's life? Because for real, that guy that you're just talking about, whether he works for you forever or he finds another opportunity, he's forever changed because of what you did for him.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's tough to find a fulfillment like that outside of what we're talking about.
So it's actually painful as well if they leave you.
Oh yeah.
And it happens. It happens. Yeah. So someone you train for years, they leave you.
Yep.
But again, it's a legit business. The business mean risk. The business mean you're saying good things, you're saying bad things, your employees will leave. Some employees will leave things for you. Why don't you see that? Right.
Yeah.
So I always see the positive aspects. And then what I get as a reward is I'm completely moved as a visionary. So these guys are all executing. These guys are all working with customer, raising invoices, getting the money and everything. So I'm just a visionary now. And all of my training, then all of my hard work for 1.5, 2 years, which I did for one of my venture, I actually see that working now.
Yeah.
And if I'd actually get to deal with a lot of businesses who, after 20 years, entrepreneur is still taking sales meeting, entrepreneur is handling or micromanaging things. So if you don't change today, you will never be changed.
Yeah, that's so true. I received that over and over again. I got to keep that in front of my own face sometimes because we can all get in our own way like that. What process or maybe even discipline do you have around making decisions at your level now?
I'm very organized guy. Whatever I receive, I actually have a list of priorities. Some
Okay.
things are very priority, so I will always see them. Some things are later priority, so I will check them during the day. Some things are of the even less priority, so I'll see them in a month. Some things maybe I'll just see them when I'm taking a flight.
Sure.
When I can't do anything else, and I will just open that list. So the rule
Yep.
number one for entrepreneur and the leader is organize yourself, because if you are not organized and if you have started missing things, the whole team will compromise.
Yeah, it's good. That's good. And so because of that, you organize your decisions in the same way. If it's a decision that needs to be handled right now, you take care of it. If it needs to be later, then you just not push it off, but organize it as such. Is that what you're communicating here?
Not only the decisions, but every task. So for example, one of my facilities, so we took a 5,000 square feet, a whole building in Lahore. I actually live in New York City in Manhattan, but one of my employee, he called up and he said that, "Hey, Hamid, we actually need you here for a couple of weeks to complete this task." So I took a flight right away. I came here, completed this facility, big building, put that on priority and put other tasks on lesser priority, right?
Yeah.
So yes, it's very important for the entrepreneur to make sure that what is a priority right now and what is not the priority right now, and then divide that list. And just making sure that in order not to compromise your stakeholders, just give them some expectation about yourself as well, right?
Yeah.
So if I receive a new request today, which I'm not able to take today, you don't have to get a pressure from that person. Tell them, okay, I'll have a time in 30 days. Is that okay for you? And that's how you keep yourself organized. You should not keep everything to the next day, but just organize yourself into the weeks and months and years.
That's right. That's right. Because most people will ask for whatever they can get.
Exactly.
If you'll give it to them next day, they'll take it next day.
They will take the next day. Otherwise, you have to mold them accordingly as per your choice.
Yeah. Yeah. And if it doesn't fit into the current mold, then possibly it's a high enough priority where you should consider otherwise.
Exactly.
and it doesn't work, you don't do it.
It doesn't work. Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty straightforward. Okay, Hamid, I want to go to the speed round. I want to come at you in a little different angle here. I want to take your entire businesses, all your platforms, and I want to dwindle them down into one trackable metric. If you could only pick one thing to track forever and ever, what would that one thing be?
Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, there's lots of things that we track inside of our businesses, right? A lot of KPIs, sales, net profit, customer satisfaction, you name it, right? We track all these things. If you could only pick one thing to track in your businesses, what would that one thing be?
I will just go with my compliance and QA guy reports.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just work with that person, and I'll check the reports that he's making for my employees about his evaluation for the teams.
Okay.
So in my organization, a couple of guys, they check from the revenue point of view, from scalability point of view, from even someone is messing around, from checking the transactions, from checking the customer service. So I will just track my QA department or my compliance department, and then I can be a little bit less worried.
Yeah.
That's one thing. That's one thing. One more thing. If you want to be a little bit free up as an entrepreneur, so after spending a couple of hard years, hire an integrator for yourself, right? And that integrator should actually be working with your whole team. So if you have money to hire an integrator, then only track that integrator.
Exactly. Yep, that's right. No, it's a double answer. It's one thing, and then in this case, if you have the one person, all you need to track is that one individual.
Exactly.
You're 100% right. Quick question. This is more of a side note than anything, because you have 5 platforms or 5 businesses. Do you have an integrator for each? Do you have an integrator altogether? How is that set up on your side, do you think?
For each.
For each.
Yeah.
It'd be difficult because you'd basically be the entrepreneur inside of that one that you don't have the integrator for if you didn't.
I haven't seen someone who can be exact replica of mine. And I don't have one person who can actually grasp 5 different platforms and how they work and how they should work. My belief, you should hire different integrators for different ventures who are expert at what they do.
Yep. Love that.
And it should take the reports. Yeah.
Yeah. Now you've mentioned, and my next question in the speed round is, what book would you recommend? You've mentioned EOS and Traction. Would you like to throw out any other books that you love as an entrepreneur, specifically for somebody who's looking to scale?
Yeah. So one is Traction, and the second one is The 7-Figure Agency Roadmap by Josh Nelson.
Okay. What was your takeaway from that book?
He will tell you about how to set up the lead generation for your agency.
Yeah.
And how to be focused and how to go niche based for your business.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then of course you have a book coming out. When does your book release?
So I've actually done writing for myself, and then there is a proofreader who is proofreading. I think it's going to take a couple more months.
Okay.
And then I'm going to be going to the industry specialist to make sure that they understand well and they find the value. So I have a deadline of about 2 months, and then hopefully it should.
Perfect. I'm sure by that time, this show will be up and running, and we'll put your link to your book in the show notes so they can grab that.
Absolutely.
I got 2 more questions here for you. The operational one, we've already tiptoed around this with the idea of an integrator and the EOS, but if you only had 1 hour each week to work in your business, how would you use that 1 hour to successfully run it like you do now?
I actually, to be honest, I spend 36 more hours because I want to work. So actually so let me give you a story. I'm sorry, it will take 1 minute.
Sure, please.
I used to work with clients, and I can handle 50 to 75 projects myself single-handedly as if I'm the account manager. Since I'm not account manager, I won't handle it now. One day I thought like, hey, Hamid, you're handling so many projects. You're making them successful. Why not your own business? So I started expanding my own businesses, having multiple ventures, and trust me, I spend 1 to 2 hours maximum for each business. And what I do is I work with integrators of each business. I spend 30 minutes in writing the instructions and directions, and 30 minutes for taking their follow-ups. And that's pretty much it. And the rest time is I can pay them salaries. That's it.
So you build a team, you find an integrator to run the team.
Yeah.
Through the process of building the team, you're writing documents and job descriptions, SOPs, anything that needs to be documented, training.
And the next directions.
And the next directions. And as long as you have those things there, all you really need to do is check in on those things, as well as then give new direction, new vision.
Here we go. Just 1 hour.
Just 1 hour. That's all it is. I love it. You'd be surprised. Some people are taken back by that question. Others are already implementing it like you, which is incredible. Last question here for you. If you lost it all, what would you do?
I will probably pray, and I'll because so work I do is my passion.
Yeah.
And then if I lose it all, I think I will not be much worried, to be honest. I'll start doing community work.
Yeah.
Because that's a satisfaction you can get there. And I'll go to people, I'll preach them good things about business, about how to live, about how to be successful in life and after. And that's what I'll do if I lose it all.
Yeah.
I still do that, but of course, being busy, that cuts the time. But yeah.
No, you wouldn't be sitting down or sleeping on a plane. That's what we do know about you.
You're right.
Your feet would be moving. Hamid, how can the listener find you? You've listed a lot of businesses here. Who listening today can use your service? Maybe give us a quick plug of who the best clients are that might need your service. The entrepreneurs listening today, how would they need you? How can they find you?
So number one, if you are an e-commerce business and do not know how to be successful online, we can help you set up your website in 20 plus e-commerce platforms, or we can help set up your search engine optimization, run Google ads, marketing funnels to make sure that you win online. That's number one. Number two, if you have a small, medium business looking to have application or software development done, we can help you out, and we can actually transform all your physical processes into applications connected with each other through the APIs. Number three, if you do not know everything, or if you want to be a pro yourself, then you can log on to the ecompro.com and start learning those skills. So with Software Pro, it's www.softwarepro.nyc. For the ecom store owners, that's ecomdevelopment.us. For people who want to learn skills, that's www.theecompro.com.
Love it. Love it. You gave us all the right ways to connect. And there's business owners out there. Actually, I love what you said there about taking all these processes that we just got done talking about, all these written forms, and you can turn it into an app for me. That sounds awesome.
There we go. And if you want to catch up with myself, if you don't Google and don't find me, so I'm not the right person, of course. So just Google Hamid Mahmood, the pro, and you should be able to find my LinkedIn and Facebook and all the handles.
I love it. We'll put them in the show notes as well so people can connect with you easily. We so appreciate you being here. We wish you nothing but success in all of your endeavors, nothing but blessing in all of those and your family. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Gathering the Kings. We hope you got a ton of value today and learned a thing or two about taking your business to 7 figures and beyond. If you desire more and want a community around you to help you get there, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. That's gatheringthekings.com. And I want you to apply for our next Becoming a King 90-day intensive. We are extremely exclusive by nature as a group. What that means is that we're really wanting only the entrepreneurs who take their business and targets super serious to apply. So if that's you think you got what it takes to level up your business, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com and apply. And we will see you on the other side.